Sometimes it seems like the loudest stories take up all the space in our minds. This is 10 Better Minutes, a podcast sharing a few recent real-world stories that quietly remind us the world is more balanced than it might feel. I am Ian Rhodes, your host, and I appreciate you joining me for this short break together. Today, we will hear about a forest protection effort gaining ground and a pair of friends who stepped in just in time to help someone in trouble. But first, I want to start with a story about a World Cup journey made possible when a mother's support crossed continents. Vozinha is a Cape Verde goalkeeper, and after a match against Spain, his emotions spilled out in a way that reached far beyond the stadium. He had a simple wish. He wanted his mother, Ana Candida Evora, to see him play at the World Cup in person. But her dream was tangled in paperwork and distance, and she had not even had a passport before. Then his plea went viral, and something beautifully practical began to move. People rallied. Officials stepped forward. Representatives from the U.S. State Department, FIFA, U.S. lawmakers, and the Cape Verde Football Federation worked together to clear a path for Evora to travel to Miami. Volunteers and FIFA officials even met her at the airport, making her first steps onto U.S. soil feel less like a leap into the unknown and more like a hand held out in welcome. More than 24 hours of travel followed, but the outcome was worth every mile. Evora arrived in time to watch her son represent Cape Verde on the World Cup stage. In the stands, that quiet moment of recognition said what all the coordination could not fully capture. When one heartfelt wish is shared and others choose to help, dreams do not just stay wishes. They become memories you can look back on with pride and with trust in people doing the right thing. Two friends took their quiet ride in a different direction, and it turned into a real-life rescue. It is a reminder that sometimes the most important help comes from choices made in the moment. Adam Sandbeck and Mike Gravelin were riding on their UTVs in northern Minnesota when they decided, at the last minute, to ride together and explore new trails. They navigated a stretch that was muddy and uneven, with potholes and obstacles along the way. Then they spotted something that did not look right near an abandoned-looking van. In a puddle they could see part of a person, and they heard her call out, "Help me!" Only her face, one hand, and a kneecap were visible. They did not hesitate. The two men pulled Catherine Woosner from the mud and then called 911 right away. Paramedics arrived about 15 minutes later, and Woosner was transported to a hospital for treatment. Investigators were still determining why she was in that area, but the immediate outcome was clear. What stands out to me is how hope shows up through ordinary decisions. Riding together, stopping to investigate, acting when you hear a voice. In the end, a few minutes of attention turned into steadiness for someone who needed it, and that is the kind of local kindness that warms you from the inside out. It is one of those reminders that help can look practical, calm, and very human, not distant or complicated. And in Portland, a grocery store is doing exactly that. Sunshine Division opened a free grocery store designed like a traditional market, in a 30,000 square foot space that feels made for everyday life. Instead of receiving pre-packed boxes, shoppers walk the aisles and choose what fits their family needs, their allergies, and their dietary restrictions. That choice matters because it turns support into something dignified and personal, the way shopping is supposed to be. And the scale is real. The store is expected to serve 100,000 households this year, with much of the inventory made possible through donations. About 80% of what is on the shelves is contributed by local grocery stores, retailers, farms, and other food partners. So it is not just one nonprofit carrying everything. It is a community sharing the work and making fresh, nutritious options easier to reach. What I keep coming back to is how the design carries a message. You are not being handed a solution. You are being welcomed into a place where you can make your own decisions. You know that feeling when the world asks you to accept less, or to move with obstacles in your way. This store quietly says the opposite. You get to choose, and that hope is not abstract. It is walking through the door and picking out the food that works for you. In a city where childcare costs can feel like a locked door, New York leaders are trying a different kind of key, one that helps families keep their footing in their plans. Mayor Zoran Mamdani and Governor Kathy Hochul announced a $1.2 billion partnership to expand free universal childcare for 2-year-olds called 2K. This fall, a pilot will offer 2,000 free seats across 4 communities. The goal is simple and practical. Make sure more toddlers can be cared for in a way that does not push families into impossible decisions about rent, work, and time. Next year, the rollout grows, with 12,000 additional seats planned. Over time, the leaders say their target is that within 4 years, there will be a free seat for every 2-year-old in New York City. Emmy Liss, the executive director of the Mayor's Office of Childcare, is leading the project, and enrollment for eligible NYC families is open now through My Schools YC. What makes this feel hopeful is how it moves from an idea to a schedule. Seats come first, families can look ahead. And when childcare becomes more predictable, work becomes more steady too. If this pilot lands the way they intend, it will not just be a program. It will be a chance for a whole new group of families to breathe a little easier right now. Sometimes the most joyful breakthroughs happen when something old gets a new pair of eyes, and suddenly it fits the moment again. Alyssa Guralnick and Paul Levitt co-wrote Weighty Words in 1985, a children's vocabulary book meant to make challenging words feel playful and friendly. For decades, it lived quietly, finding only a small following, and Alyssa has said they really never made a dime. Then, a few weeks ago, Eli McCann posted a viral TikTok video. In it, he reminisces about discovering Weighty Words in 8th grade, and you can almost feel how a single memory can reach out and touch other people. The post sparked immediate interest, and the book climbed to the top of Amazon bestseller charts. What makes the turnaround feel especially sweet is the way the lessons keep their charm. One page teaches the word scintillate through a firefly named Gloriana, turning shimmering into something a child can picture right away. Before long, the demand was so strong that the publisher ordered a new printing. Alyssa and Paul's most meaningful outcome, though, is not simply the chart success. They say the best part is seeing families, including their own children, share that same spark of delight. A book that once waited patiently found its way back into kitchens and living rooms, reminding us that learning can be a small, bright adventure. As always, I have a practical tip for you to help your mind reset and to make room for a little more joy in your day. Here is today's thought: balancing the heavy weight of global stress with real, local examples of goodness. It is easy to feel overwhelmed by everything happening far away. News, disasters, conflict, and uncertainty can stack up in your mind until it starts to feel like you cannot breathe. So instead of trying to erase that concern, try pairing it with something close enough to touch. Take one small community detail and let it anchor you. Maybe it is a neighbor who checks in on someone who is sick. Maybe it is a coworker who offers a ride. Maybe it is a teacher who stays 10 minutes after class to help a student understand. If you cannot see it directly, look for it intentionally. Read a local nonprofit story. Notice who shows up, who shares, and who keeps going. Then decide on one grounded action, not a grand rescue. Write a kind message. Donate what you can. Volunteer once. Even a small choice helps your nervous system remember: goodness is not imaginary, and you are not powerless. You can care about the world and still live in your street, your work, and your ordinary day. Well, that is it for today, friends. Thanks for sticking with me through these 10 better minutes and letting a little bit of steady hope find its way back into your day. It is easy to feel like the world is only noise, but even when things are heavy, there is still decency, kindness, and people doing the right thing in quieter ways than the headlines usually show. If you would like a few more stories to return to tomorrow, please follow or subscribe, since new episodes post every day. This is Ian Rhodes with 10 Better Minutes. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow.